I wake up at 4:47 a.m. same as always. No alarm needed. 12 years of crisis deployments have rewired my body. I reach for my laptop before water. Old habits. 17 alerts from the monitoring system. Nothing critical. Just the usual noise of keeping a massive platform alive. A health check failed here, memory spiked there. Most would panic. I make coffee. My name is Savannah Miles. I was the principal systems architect at Vanguard Solutions, the unseen backbone of a fintech platform moving $4 billion a quarter. You wouldn't know me. But every transaction runs on code I wrote, infrastructure I built, fail-safes I put in place during nights no one else stayed for. If you're new here and enjoying these powerful stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Let me know in the comments what part of today's story touched you most. They call me the architect, but that's corporate speak for the person who built the foundation and then got blamed when others stacked too much on top. I sip my coffee, dark roast, no sugar, and scan the alerts. Everything works because of decisions I made years ago. Decisions that outlasted reorganizations, CTOs, and strategic pivots that led us right back where we started. My phone buzzes. Nathan Spencer, VP of Engineering. Need you to join a call at 9 a.m. Important discussion about your role going forward. No context. No pleasantries. Just a summons. I don't respond. Let him wonder if I'm already awake, already fixing something he doesn't even know is broken. Because here's what Nathan doesn't get. I'm not here out of dedication. I'm here because I'm the only one who knows where all the bodies are buried, and why they were buried in the first place. The office is a converted warehouse. Exposed brick, broken coffee machine, standing desks no one uses. I arrive at 7:15 a.m., early on purpose. To watch who else shows up early. Who else knows this strategic discussion is an execution. Rajesh from Infra is already here, headphones on, debugging what used to be my problem. We don't acknowledge each other. It's our silent pact, plausible deniability until 8 a.m. I head to my desk. Back corner, third floor, far from the glass offices where execs rehearse TED Talks. Boot up my workstation. 3 monitors, mechanical keyboard, a coffee-stained mousepad from a conference I never wanted to attend. The network crawls. It's been degrading since Nathan pushed a modernization initiative onto a cloud provider with better sales decks than actual reliability. I warned him. Wrote a 12-page assessment. He had his assistant summarize it. Savannah has reservations about timeline and vendor reliability. We migrated anyway. Now we have twice the latency and triple the bill. Inbox, 64 unread. Alerts, passive-aggressive Slack threads, escalating messages from Nathan's assistant. Calendar invite, strategic realignment discussion confidential. Attendees, Nathan, me, Veronica from HR, and Preston Lang, organizational effectiveness consultant. I know what Preston is. A hatchet man with a LinkedIn profile. Hired to give cover for layoffs, write reports calling people redundant, then vanish before the fallout. I'm not surprised. I've seen this coming since Nathan arrived 18 months ago, MBA in hand, asking why we hadn't just used Kubernetes. Kubernetes didn't exist when I built this. Back then I was solving real problems while he was networking at alumni mixers. I didn't argue. I smiled. Said I'd look into it. Then went back to my desk and made sure every critical system still pointed to credentials only I controlled. The meeting starts 4 minutes late. Nathan's power move. Make me wait. When he finally joins video, working from home naturally, he's in a navy quarter zip, framed by a bookshelf that screams thought leader. Savannah, thanks for making time, he says like I had a choice. We value everything you've built. Present tense. Then past. Veronica sits stiffly in a conference room, portfolio in hand, wearing empathy like a poorly fitted suit. Preston is audio only, just a voice to cite later as external analysis. We're evaluating our engineering structure, Nathan says. Opportunity to streamline. Bring in fresh perspectives. Modernize legacy approaches. Leggy. There it is. Code for your obsolete. I stay quiet. I learned long ago. Don't defend yourself. Let them hang themselves with their script. After a pause, he delivers it. We've decided to eliminate your role as principal systems architect. Eliminate the role. Not fire me. As if the job, not the person, is the problem. Veronica chimes in. Not a reflection of performance. Strategic decision. Restructuring the architecture function. Nathan adds, 4 months severance. Benefits. Will support your transition. 4 months. 12 years. Gone. I feel calm. The kind that comes after waiting for the other shoe to drop. I understand, I say. Voice steady. Timeline. He's relieved I'm not crying. Today. Last day. Need knowledge transfer, credentials handed over, continuity with Rajesh's team. Today. They want me gone today. Rajesh's team? I ask. The one with 4 people 2 hired 3 months ago? They're capable, Nathan says defensively. I'm sure they are. I pause. You'll need my passwords. Root access. API keys. 2 FA tokens tied to my device. Veronica jumps in. We have a checklist. Everything documented and transferred by end of day. I nod. 12 years of systems. 8 hours to document it. Just do your best, Nathan says. Focus on what would cause immediate issues. Everything, I think. Literally everything. I'll do what I can. The call ends. I stare at the black screen. 12 years. 4 months. 1 day. I open my terminal. Here's what Nathan doesn't know. This isn't just a system. It's a nervous system. Alive, interdependent, built over 12 years by one person. Me. No malice. No master plan. Just survival. Vanguard started as 6 people in a co-working space. I built everything from scratch. Authentication, database replication, deployment pipelines. Layer after layer, each solving a real problem, none designed for someone else to inherit. And every critical piece runs through credentials tied to my account. Because that's how it evolved. Because no one else was there. Because every new hire plugged into my foundation. Now Nathan wants it all handed over in 8 hours. I start writing documentation for the transaction processor, the settlement engine, the nightly reconciliation job. Accurate. Complete. Then I delete it. If I give them everything, they win. They prove I'm replaceable. So I rewrite it, all technically true but useless. The transaction system handles financial transactions. Key components include the API gateway, validation service, routing logic, and settlement engine. For details, refer to the codebase or contact the infrastructure team. Perfect. Says everything, explains nothing. I spend the morning turning 12 years of deep knowledge into surface-level summaries, omitting timing dependencies, magic numbers, the quiet workarounds for broken vendors. At 11:30, Rajesh appears. I heard. Sorry. It's fine. It's not. They're making a mistake. I know. He hesitates. I need your credentials. Here's the list. Email, DB access, Cloud Console, repo permissions. Critical ones flagged. What about deployment keys? External API tokens. In the secure vault. Nathan has to approve access. What I don't say, the vault only has 60% of them. The rest are in a private system I built in 2018. Mentioned it once. No one cared. And the monitoring system? You're the only admin. I'll send the reset link. You should be able to take over by end of day. What I don't say, the alerts go to my phone. Changing the admin won't fix the webhooks. They'll need to reconfigure manually if they even notice. He lingers. You gonna be okay? Yeah. I will. He leaves. I turn back to my screen. 6 hours left. Not to steal data. Not to sabotage. Just to make sure that when I walk out I take one thing with me. The knowledge of how it really works. Then I mute Slack. I don't need the distraction. I spend the afternoon going through my personal files. 12 years of accumulated knowledge. Scripts I wrote, notes I took, diagrams I sketched during meetings. Some of it is company property. Most of it exists in a gray area. Things I created on company time but using my own tools, my own methods, my own brain. I copy everything to an external drive. Not to steal it. Just to keep it. Because maybe someday someone will ask me a question and I'll want to remember the answer. At 4:30 p.m., Veronica from HR appears at my desk with a cardboard box and a printed severance agreement. I'm sorry we have to do this, she says, and I almost believe her. I sign the papers. Non-disclosure agreement. Non-compete clause. General release of claims. All the legal protections that companies wrap around themselves when they discard people. The severance is actually decent. 4 months of salary, benefits through the end of the year, and a small payout for unused vacation time. Probably more than they needed to give me, which means their lawyers were worried I might sue. Or maybe Nathan has a conscience after all. I pack the box. 12 years fits into surprisingly little space. A few framed certificates, a coffee mug from a conference, a fidget toy someone gave me as a joke. The rest is digital. The rest lives in systems that will keep running until they don't. At 5:47 p.m., I walk out of Vanguard Solutions for the last time. No goodbye party. No farewell speech. Just me, a cardboard box, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that somewhere deep in the infrastructure I built, there's a timer counting down. They just don't know it yet. The first alert fires at 2 a.m. on day 3. I'm not awake to see it. My phone is in the other room on silent, charging on a shelf where I deliberately left it so I wouldn't be tempted to check. But I know it happens because when I finally look at my phone the next morning, there are 47 missed notifications. The reconciliation service, the one that runs every night to make sure all the day's transactions balanced correctly, failed to execute. Not because of a bug. Not because of a system outage. But because the service tried to authenticate using a credential that no longer existed. My credential. When HR deactivated my employee account, they followed the standard process. Disable email, revoke system access, remove from active directories. But they didn't check, because they didn't know to check, that the automated reconciliation job was configured to run using my personal API token. A token I'd generated 5 years ago and never bothered to rotate because it was working fine and I was busy. The job failed. The failure triggered an alert. The alert was sent to my phone. My phone that I'm not looking at because I don't work there anymore. By the time someone at Vanguard Solutions notices, it's 9:30 a.m. A full 7.5 hours of transactions have been processed without being reconciled. 7.5 hours of financial data sitting in an unverified state. That alone isn't catastrophic. They can run the reconciliation manually. But it's a crack. A small one. The kind that spreads. I find out about it not from the alerts. I've deleted the Vanguard Solutions monitoring app from my phone. But from a text message from Rajesh. Rajesh, 9:47 a.m. Hey, weird question. Did the reconciliation job use your personal API key? I stare at the message for a long time before responding. Me, 10:03 a.m. It might have. I'd need to check my notes. Is there an issue? Rajesh, 10:04 a.m. It failed last night. We're trying to figure out why. Nathan is asking if you can consult. Consult. Interesting word choice. Me, 10:06 a.m. I'm no longer employed by Vanguard Solutions. If you need consulting work, you'll need to go through proper channels. My rate is $500 per hour with a 4-hour minimum. I don't expect a response. Companies don't pay former employees to fix problems that the former employees warned them about. But 20 minutes later, I get an email from Nathan Spencer. Subject: Urgent system issue. Savannah. We're experiencing a technical issue with one of the critical batch processes. Rajesh mentioned you might have insight into the configuration. Would you be available for a quick call? We'd be happy to compensate you for your time. Best, Nathan. I read the email 3 times. He's being polite. Careful. This isn't the Nathan who eliminated my role. This is Nathan who just discovered that eliminating my role had consequences. I don't reply immediately. Let him wait. Let him wonder if I'm going to respond at all. I spend the day doing other things. Updating my resume. Reaching out to old contacts. Taking a long walk in the park near my apartment because I haven't had time to do that in years. At 4 p.m. I respond to Nathan's email. Subject: Urgent system issue. Nathan. I'm available for consulting work. My standard rate is $500 per hour, 4-hour minimum per engagement, invoiced weekly with net 15 payment terms. If you'd like to discuss the issue, please have your procurement team send over a standard consulting agreement and I can begin work once the contract is executed. Best, Savannah. Professional. Reasonable. Expensive. The response comes back in 40 minutes. Subject: Urgent system issue. Savannah. That rate is higher than our typical consulting fees. Is there flexibility here? This is a fairly straightforward issue. Of course he thinks it's straightforward. That's the problem. Subject: Urgent system issue. Nathan. The rate reflects the specialized knowledge required. If it's straightforward, your current team should be able to resolve it without external help. Let me know if you'd like to proceed. Best, Savannah. I close my laptop and make dinner. Pasta, garlic bread, a glass of wine I've been saving for a special occasion. Getting fired counts as special, I decide. Nathan doesn't respond that evening. But the alerts keep coming. Not to my phone anymore. I blocked those, but I hear about them through the network. Rajesh messages me again. Then someone from the operations team I barely know. Then Bethany from finance, who I haven't spoken to in 2 years. Something is breaking. Multiple somethings. And no one knows how to fix it. By day 7, the situation has escalated from technical issue to crisis. I know this because Nathan calls me directly. Not an email. Not a Slack message. An actual phone call, which for Nathan is the equivalent of sending up a flare. I don't answer. I let it go to voicemail. Savannah, it's Nathan. Look, I know we didn't end things on the best terms, but we're in a bit of a situation here. Multiple systems are exhibiting unexpected behavior, and Rajesh's team is hitting roadblocks with the documentation. I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a call back. We're willing to work with you on the consulting rate. Thanks. The documentation. He means the useless documentation I spent 8 hours writing before they fired me. I listened to the voicemail twice, then delete it. 20 minutes later, Veronica from HR calls. I don't answer that either. Then I get an email from someone I don't recognize. Preston Lang, the organizational effectiveness consultant. The hatchet man. Subject: follow-up consultation opportunity. Ms. Miles, I understand you've been contacted regarding some technical challenges at Vanguard Solutions. I want to reach out directly to see if we can find a mutually beneficial arrangement. The company is prepared to engage you for a limited consulting period at a competitive rate. Would you be available for a conversation this week? Best regards, Preston Lang, Organizational Effectiveness Consultant. Almost laugh. Preston Lang, the man who helped justify firing me, is now trying to hire me back. This time I respond. Subject: follow-up consultation opportunity. Mr. Lang, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm currently evaluating several opportunities, but I'm open to discussing a consulting engagement with Vanguard Solutions. My rate is $750 per hour for emergency consulting work, with a minimum 20-hour weekly commitment and a 30-day minimum contract term. Payment is due upfront for the first week, then weekly thereafter. If these terms are acceptable, please have legal send over a contract and I can start next week. Best, Savannah Miles. I've increased my rate. 50% higher than before. And I'm requiring a 30-day commitment, which at 20 hours per week and $750 per hour comes to $45,000. For 1 month. More than they paid me in 3 months as a full-time employee. Preston responds in 2 hours. Subject: follow-up consultation opportunity. Ms. Miles, your rate is significantly above our typical consulting budget. Additionally, the 30-day commitment and upfront payment requirements are non-standard for our procurement process. Is there room for negotiation on these terms? Best regards, Preston. Oh, there's not. Subject: follow-up consultation opportunity. Mr. Lang, I understand these terms are atypical. However, they reflect the specialized nature of the work and the urgency of the situation. My expertise with Vanguard's infrastructure is unique, and the rate accounts for the opportunity cost of pausing other client work. If the company would prefer to continue troubleshooting internally, I completely understand. These terms are firm. Best, Savannah. I hit send and close my laptop. My hands are shaking slightly. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the realization that I'm playing a game I've never played before and I might actually be winning. They accept my terms on day 9. The contract arrives via email at 6:47 a.m. Standard consulting agreement, modified to include my rate, hours, and payment structure. Legal has added some additional clauses about confidentiality and intellectual property, but nothing objectionable. I sign it. Return it. Wait. At 10:15 a.m., I receive a wire transfer for $15,000. The first week's payment, upfront as requested. At 10:22 a.m., Nathan Spencer sends me a calendar invite for 11 a.m. Subject: System Stabilization Planning. I join the call at exactly 11 o'clock. Nathan is there looking exhausted. Rajesh is there looking embarrassed. Veronica from HR is there looking nervous. And Preston Lang is there, looking like he's regretting every decision that led to this moment. Savannah, Nathan begins, thanks for agreeing to help us out. We're in a tough spot here. I don't respond. I'm being paid $750 an hour. They can use their own hours to explain the situation. Nathan continues. Over the past week, we've experienced a series of system failures. The reconciliation job you mentioned, but also issues with the automated deployment pipeline, the monitoring alerts, and some of the data synchronization processes. Rajesh's team has been working around the clock, but they're hitting walls with the documentation and architecture. What specifically is failing? I ask. Rajesh pulls up a shared screen. It's a list of errors. Long technical damning. Reconciliation job. Authentication failure. Deployment pipeline. Permission denied on artifact repository. Monitoring system. Webhook delivery failures. Data sync process. Timeout connecting to legacy database. Customer notification service. API rate limit exceeded. I scan the list. Every single item is something I built, maintained, and configured using credentials or permissions tied to my account. These are all related to access control and authentication, I say. When my employee account was deactivated, it broke the service accounts that were dependent on my permissions. Right, Rajesh says. But we've been trying to reconfigure them and we're running into issues. Some of the services are using API keys we can't locate. Others are hitting permission errors even after we think we've fixed the credentials. Because the architecture is more complex than they realized. Because I spent 12 years building layers upon layers of interconnected systems, each one making perfect sense at the time, each one now appearing to them as a labyrinth. How much time would it take to fix this? Nathan asks. I consider the question. If I wanted to fix it quickly, truly transfer all the knowledge and credentials and architectural decisions, I could probably do it in a week. Maybe 2. But I don't want to fix it quickly. It depends on how thorough you want to be, I say. I can provide band-aid solutions that will get the critical systems running again. That might take 20 to 30 hours. Or I can do a proper knowledge transfer, document everything, restructure the credentials and permissions properly. That would take significantly longer. How much longer? Preston asks. 12 to 16 weeks. The silence on the call is profound. 12 weeks. Nathan repeats. That's 3 months. Yes. That's how long it takes to properly transfer 12 years of institutional knowledge. But you said the critical systems could be fixed in 30 hours, Veronica points out. Band-aids, I repeat. Quick fixes that will get things running but won't solve the underlying architectural issues. You'll be dependent on those fixes, and when they eventually break, and they will, you'll be right back where you started. I watch their faces. They're doing the math. 12 weeks at 20 hours per week at $750 per hour. $180,000. Plus the original 30-day minimum I already locked in. We need to discuss this internally, Nathan says tightly. Of course, I say. I'll be available when you're ready to proceed. In the meantime, I'm happy to answer specific technical questions, but detailed troubleshooting and fixes will require dedicated consulting hours. The call ends. I sit back in my chair and realize I'm smiling. They decide to start with the band-aids. Over the next 2 weeks, I work exactly 20 hours per week. No more, no less, fixing the most critical issues. I regenerate API keys. I reconfigure service account permissions. I update monitoring webhooks. I restart failed jobs and verify that data is flowing correctly. And I document nothing. Well, not nothing. I document the immediate fixes. The commands I ran, the settings I changed. But I don't document why those settings needed to be changed. I don't explain the underlying architecture that made those settings necessary. I don't reveal the mental model that would help them understand how everything connects. Each week I invoice them for exactly $15,000. Each week they pay. Nathan stops joining the daily check-in calls after week 2. Rajesh becomes my primary contact, and I can tell he's frustrated. Not with me, he understands what's happening, but with the situation. They really screwed this up, didn't they? He says during one of our calls after everyone else has dropped off. Yeah, I say. They did. For what it's worth, I tried to warn Nathan. When he first proposed eliminating your role, I told him the architecture was more complex than he realized. I appreciate that. He didn't listen. He said we could handle it. That you'd left documentation. I did leave documentation, I say. Just not the kind that helps. Rajesh laughs, dark and tired. I noticed. How bad is it really? I ask. Beyond what they're telling me. He's quiet for a moment. Bad. We've had 3 customer-facing outages in the past 2 weeks. Small ones, but enough that sales is getting complaints. And the executive team is starting to ask questions about why we're spending so much on consulting. Good. Have they talked about bringing me back full-time? I ask, already knowing the answer. Nathan would never admit he was wrong like that. But yeah, there's been discussion. Preston Lang has been pushing for some kind of longer-term arrangement. What kind of arrangement? I don't know the details. But I think they're realizing that this isn't a short-term problem. We end the call. I make myself dinner. I think about what comes next. The offer arrives on day 34, right as my original consulting contract is set to expire. It's not from Nathan. It's from the CEO, Eleanor Hartwick, someone I've met exactly twice in 12 years. Once at a company all hands. Once in an elevator. Subject. Conversation request, private. Savannah. I'd like to speak with you directly about your work with Vanguard Solutions. Would you be available for a confidential conversation this week? I'm happy to work around your schedule. Best regards, Eleanor Hartwick, CEO, Vanguard Solutions. When the CEO emails you directly, you pay attention. Not because you're intimidated. I stopped being intimidated by titles around year 8. But because it means the problem has escalated beyond Nathan's ability to contain it. I respond within an hour. Subject. Conversation request, private. Eleanor. I'm available Thursday at 2 p.m. if that works for your calendar. Please let me know if you'd prefer video or phone. Best, Savannah. Her response comes back in minutes. Subject. Conversation request, private. Thursday at 2 p.m. works perfectly. Let's do video. I'll send a calendar invite. And Savannah, this conversation is just between us. No HR, no Nathan, no consultants. Interesting. Very interesting. Thursday arrives. I spend the morning preparing. Not in the way I used to prepare for meetings at Vanguard. No slide decks, no talking points, no defensive documentation. Instead, I prepare by reviewing my leverage. I've fixed enough critical systems to keep the company operational. But I haven't fixed everything. The deployment pipeline is still fragile. The monitoring system still has gaps. The data synchronization processes are held together with manual interventions that Rajesh's team performs every morning. They need me. Not want. Need. At 2 p.m. exactly, I join the video call. Eleanor is in her office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the harbor. She's wearing a black blazer and minimal jewelry. Her hair is pulled back in a way that says she doesn't have time for nonsense. Savannah, she says. Thank you for making time. Of course. I'm going to be direct because I think you appreciate directness. We made a mistake letting you go. Nathan made a mistake and I didn't catch it until it was too late. Now we're paying the price both literally and operationally. I don't respond. Let her continue. I've reviewed the consulting invoices. $60,000 over the past month. I've also reviewed the incident reports. We've had more system instability in the past 5 weeks than we had in the entire previous year. That's accurate, I say. Nathan tells me the issues are largely resolved now. That your consulting work has stabilized the critical systems. Band-aids, I say. I've applied band-aids. The underlying problems remain. Eleanor leans forward slightly. What would it take to actually fix the underlying problems? Time, money, or both? I gave Nathan an estimate of 12 to 16 weeks for a proper knowledge transfer and architectural remediation. That timeline assumes dedicated focus and cooperation from the existing team. And the cost? At my current consulting rate, approximately $180,000. Plus the cost of your internal team's time. Eleanor doesn't flinch at the number. What if we brought you back full-time instead? There it is. The offer I knew was coming. That depends on the terms, I say carefully. What terms would you need? I've thought about this. Extensively. Late at night, running through scenarios, calculating my leverage, understanding exactly what I'm worth to them right now. First, a formal apology. Not from you, from Nathan. In writing. Acknowledging that the decision to eliminate my role was premature and poorly executed. Eleanor's expression doesn't change, but I see something flicker in her eyes. Surprise maybe. Or respect. Second, restoration of my position. Not just any position. My exact previous role with the exact previous title. Principal Systems Architect. Done, Eleanor says immediately. Third, compensation adjustment. My previous salary plus 30%. Plus restoration of the bonus that Nathan threatened. The $200,000? Yes. Plus a retention bonus of equal amount paid up front. Eleanor writes something down. What else? Reporting structure. I don't report to Nathan Spencer. I report directly to the CTO or if necessary to you. Our CTO reports to Nathan, Eleanor says. Then Nathan shouldn't be the VP of engineering anymore. The silence stretches. I can hear my own heartbeat. I've just asked the CEO to demote or fire her VP of engineering. It's audacious. It's probably career suicide. But I don't care. Because I know something Eleanor is just now realizing. She needs me more than I need her. Nathan has been with us for 18 months, Eleanor says slowly. He came highly recommended. Stanford MBA, previous experience at 2 successful startups. And in those 18 months, I say, how many critical systems has he personally designed? How many production incidents has he resolved at 3 in the morning? How many lines of code has he written? That's not his role. Exactly. It's mine. It's been mine for 12 years. And when he decided I was redundant, he learned very quickly that some roles can't be eliminated just because they're not visible in org charts. Eleanor sets down her pen. You're asking me to choose between you and Nathan. No. I'm telling you what it would take for me to come back. If those terms don't work for you, I'll finish out my consulting contract and move on. Rajesh is competent. You'll figure it out eventually. It'll just cost you more money, more time, and probably a few customers. That sounds like a threat. It's a fact. I built your infrastructure. I know exactly how fragile it is and exactly what it would take to stabilize it properly. You can have that knowledge in-house, or you can keep paying me $750 an hour to dole it out in small pieces. Eleanor studies me for a long moment. I keep my expression neutral, professional. Inside, my heart is racing. Let me ask you something, she finally says. Why didn't you document everything properly in the first place? Why create this single point of failure? It's a fair question. One I've asked myself. I didn't create it intentionally. It evolved over 12 years of being the only person who cared enough to fix things properly. Every time I tried to train someone, they got promoted or quit or reassigned. Every time I tried to get budget for proper documentation, it got deprioritized for feature work. Every time I warned about technical debt, I got told we'd address it next quarter. I pause. I became the single point of failure because I was the only point that refused to fail. Eleanor nods slowly. Fair enough. She closes her notebook. I need to discuss this with the board. We have a meeting next week. Can I call you after that? Of course. And Savannah, for what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserved better than how this played out. The call ends. I close my laptop and sit in the sudden quiet of my apartment. I don't know if I'll take the job if they offer it. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to walk away forever and let them struggle. Part of me wants to see Nathan's face when he reads my list of demands. But mostly I'm just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being essential and unappreciated at the same time. I make tea. I stare out the window. I wait. Eleanor calls me back on day 42. We'd like to move forward, she says without preamble. All your terms are acceptable with 2 modifications. What modifications? First, Nathan Spencer will be transitioning to a strategic advisory role. He'll retain his VP title but will no longer have direct reports or operational responsibilities. You'll report directly to me until we hire a new CTO. Strategic advisory role. Corporate speak for demoted, but we're letting him save face. And the second modification? The retention bonus will be paid over 2 years instead of upfront. $100,000 on your first day back, $100,000 after 12 months. I consider this. It's a reasonable compromise. Ensures I'll stay at least a year. Gives them some protection if I decide to leave early. Acceptable, I say. Excellent. HR will send over the offer letter today. We'd like you to start Monday if possible. We have a board presentation on the infrastructure stability plan, and it would be helpful to have you there. Monday works. And Savannah? Eleanor pauses. Thank you for coming back. I know we didn't earn it. You're right, I say. You didn't. But I built that system. I'm not going to let it fail because of someone else's ego. We end the call. I sit back and realize that I've just negotiated myself into one of the most powerful positions in the company, not because of my title, but because everyone now understands what happens when I'm not there. The offer letter arrives 2 hours later. I read it carefully. Everything is as discussed. Restored position, salary increase, bonus structure, reporting relationship. There's even a clause acknowledging my consulting work and agreeing that all invoices will be paid in full within 30 days. I sign it. Send it back. Pour myself a drink. On Friday, Nathan Spencer sends me an email. Subject, welcome back. Savannah. I wanted to reach out personally to say I'm glad you're returning to Vanguard Solutions. I recognize that the transition wasn't handled as well as it should have been, and I take responsibility for that. I look forward to working with you in your restored capacity. Best, Nathan Spencer. It's not an apology. It's a face-saving gesture written by someone in HR or legal. But it's something. I don't respond. I don't need to. Monday morning, I walk back into the Vanguard Solutions office at 7:15 a.m. Same building, same badge reader, different feeling. People notice. The early arrivers, the ones who remember, they stop and stare. Some smile. Some look away. Everyone knows what happened. My desk is exactly as I left it. They didn't reassign it. Didn't clear it out. Just left it sitting empty for 6 weeks like a shrine to poor decision-making. I boot up my workstation. 3 monitors flicker to life. I log in with credentials that HR restored over the weekend. Everything works. Everything loads. I check the monitoring dashboard. Green across the board. All the systems I fixed during my consulting period are stable. All the band-aids are holding. For now. Rajesh appears at my desk at 8:30. Welcome back. Thanks. For what it's worth, I'm glad they came to their senses. Me too. Nathan wants to schedule a one-on-one with you. To realign on priorities. I almost laugh. Tell him I'm booked this week. Maybe next week. Rajesh grins. Will do. At 9 o'clock I attend the board presentation. Eleanor is there along with 5 board members I've never met. Nathan is conspicuously absent. Eleanor introduces me. This is Savannah Miles, our principal systems architect. She's going to walk us through the infrastructure stability plan. I didn't prepare slides. I don't need to. I open the architecture diagram, the real one, the one that shows how everything actually connects, and I start talking. I talk for 40 minutes. I explain the technical debt. The architectural decisions made years ago that made sense then but cause problems now. The interdependencies that evolved organically. The risks of rapid scaling without proper foundation work. I don't blame anyone. I don't mention Nathan. I just present facts. When I finish, one of the board members, older guy, gray suit, former CTO of some enterprise company, raises his hand. This sounds like a significant infrastructure overhaul. What's the timeline? 18 months, I say. Assuming proper resourcing. And if we don't do it? We'll continue having incidents. Small ones at first, then larger ones. Eventually, something will break badly enough that we'll lose customers or face regulatory problems. Then we'll have to do the overhaul anyway, but under crisis conditions. The board member nods. And you need what? More engineers. 2 senior infrastructure engineers, 1 database specialist and a technical writer. Plus commitment from leadership that infrastructure work won't keep getting deprioritized for features. Eleanor writes something down. We'll make it happen. The meeting ends. As I'm packing up my laptop, the board member who asked the questions approaches me. That was impressive, he says. Most people in your position would have thrown someone under the bus. I don't need to, I say. The system speaks for itself. He smiles. Eleanor made the right call bringing you back. Don't let them screw it up again. I won't. The first few weeks back are strange. People treat me differently. Not with hostility, Most people are genuinely happy I'm back, but with a kind of cautious respect. Like they're afraid I might leave again if they say the wrong thing. Nathan and I don't speak. We pass each other in hallways. We're CC'd on the same emails. But we don't have conversations. He's been effectively sidelined, moved to an office on a different floor, excluded from the technical decisions. Part of me feels bad for him. Part of me doesn't. I hire the team Eleanor approved. 2 infrastructure engineers who actually understand distributed systems. A database specialist who's worked at companies 10 times our size. A technical writer who has experience documenting complex architectures. I spend my days doing what I should have been allowed to do years ago. Building properly instead of quickly, documenting thoughtfully, training thoroughly. The retention bonus hits my account on my first day back. $100,000. The second largest deposit I've ever received, after the consulting payments. I don't spend it. I just let it sit there, a reminder of what I'm worth when people remember to value me. 6 months pass. The infrastructure overhaul is ahead of schedule. The new team is excellent. The documentation is comprehensive. The systems are more stable than they've been in years. Nathan Spencer leaves the company in month 7. He takes a job at some startup, probably sold them on his Stanford credentials and his experience scaling engineering organizations. The press release thanks him for his contributions and wishes him well. I don't attend his going-away party. Neither do most of the engineers. Eleanor asks me if I want to interview for the VP of Engineering role. I decline. I don't want to manage politics. I want to build systems. That's what I'm good at. They hire someone from outside. A woman named Adriana Reeves who spent 15 years at a major tech company and actually knows the difference between Kubernetes and a load balancer. She's competent, respectful, and most importantly, she listens when I talk. 1 year after I was fired, I received my second retention bonus. Another $100,000. Plus my regular bonus. Plus my salary that's now 30% higher than it was. I've made more money in the past 12 months than I made in the previous 3 years combined. But more than that, I've made something else. A system that doesn't depend on me. A team that understands the architecture. Documentation that actually helps. A culture that values infrastructure work instead of treating it like a necessary evil. I could leave now if I wanted to. Walk away knowing the company would be fine without me. But I don't want to leave. Not yet. Because for the first time in 12 years, I'm not the invisible backbone. I'm not the person everyone relies on and no one appreciates. I'm just an engineer doing good work with good people. And that's worth more than any bonus. Epilogue. 2 years after my return, Vanguard Solutions gets acquired. Large fintech company, 9-figure deal. Eleanor and the board make out incredibly well. So do the employees with stock options. Including me. During the technical due diligence process, the acquiring company's engineers spend 3 days reviewing our infrastructure. They meet with me, ask detailed questions, examine the architecture. At the end, their lead engineer pulls me aside. "This is some of the cleanest infrastructure I've seen at a company your size," he says. "Whoever built this knew what they were doing." "Thanks," I say. "I built it." He looks surprised. "You?" I assumed this was a whole team. It was, eventually. But I designed the foundation. "Well, you did a hell of a job. We're going to keep most of this intact. Usually we rip everything out and rebuild, but this is solid." After the acquisition closes, I get offers from 3 different companies. All of them offering VP-level roles, equity packages, the works. I turn them all down. Instead, I start my own consulting practice. Helping companies avoid the mistakes that Vanguard Solutions made. Building sustainable infrastructure. Teaching teams how to document properly. Showing organizations why investing in the invisible work matters. My rate is $1,000 an hour. I'm booked 6 months in advance. Sometimes I think about Nathan Spencer. Wonder if he learned anything. Wonder if he ever tells the story of the architect he fired and the system that stopped working. Probably not. People like Nathan don't learn from their mistakes. They just move on to the next company and make the same mistakes with different people. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm done being the person who holds everything together while being treated as expendable. Now I teach other people how to build systems that don't fall apart when one person leaves. And I charge a premium for the lesson. If you made it this far, do me a favor and subscribe. Hit that like button. Share this with anyone who's ever been called legacy, or redundant, or told they're not thinking strategically enough. Because this story, it's not just about Savannah Miles. It's about every infrastructure engineer, every DBA, every sysadmin, every person who keeps the lights on while everyone else takes credit for the electricity. You're not invisible. You're essential. And one day they'll figure that out. Usually right after you walk out the door.